Hello, in this video I want to talk with you a little bit about the use of proctoria during exams. So you'll notice I have a website up. This is a Texas Tech website. So if you want to pause the video and take note of what this website is, this is basically the guide for students to the Proctorio online proctoring tool. There are some things that you're going to have to do between now and your first exam, and there's a summary provided here of how to get started. So the first thing is you will have to have the latest Google Chrome installed on your system. And so if you will pull up this document from the Texas Tech Blackboard site, the e-learning site, they give you detailed instructions. They also have an FAQ page for students, and there's also a phone number that you can call. I will be posting this on a modified syllabus. It's very similar wording to what I have stated in the syllabus, but just to be sure that you understand, please read this statement associated with the e-learning system. So that'll provide what you need. Now, the best place to go is on the student guide to getting started with Proctorio, and I should have that already pulled up. It's a PDF document. It's just a quick start document that tells you what you need to know about Proctorio. The time to do this is not in the middle of taking the exam or a few minutes before you begin the exam. The time to do this is today or tomorrow, so that you have plenty of time to get everything set up where you need to be set up for taking the exam on Wednesday morning. You don't want that stress right before exam time. So this just goes through. As you were told at the beginning of class, you will need to have a properly working webcam and microphone, and that you have the latest version of Google Chrome installed. And there are some detailed instructions. Once again, these are instructions that you want to test out now, not the day of the exam. So first, that's just kind of the first thing you need to do. Be sure that that's installed and working. It's platform independent. It works for either PC-based or Mac-based operating systems. So there's that. Okay, I want to look a little bit at, let's go to your Blackboard site, and we'll go ahead and log in to your class. Okay, let's find you. So this is your class website, and you'll notice the exam that I can view, you cannot view because it's currently hidden from students. And you'll notice here it does say Google Chrome is required to appear. I'm currently on Safari, so you can't really, I can't really demonstrate for you what happens if you click this giant red exclamation mark. I already have Google Chrome on my system. So you want to be sure that you open Blackboard and that you take the exam within Google Chrome. Otherwise, you won't be able to take the exam. When you click on the exam, and I don't believe, since I'm in Safari, I don't believe it's going to let me do anything, but when I click on the exam, it's basically going to open the exam. And at that point, Proctorio will give you some prompts. So let me go back to the Google Chrome site and see if it will show you anything. Alright, so here we go. When I click on this, you'll see it tells you you have a time limit of 50 minutes, that it will save and submit automatically when time expires, that it can be saved and resumed at any point, and that it must be submitted by 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. There are going to be 2 questions on Blackboard. The first question contains an image of the exam questions. So when the exam opens, question 1 is the whole entire exam, and it is input into the system as an essay style question. So what you're going to do is when it opens, question 1 will be essay type. In the answer submission space, so in other words, where you would normally write the essay, all you submit are the answers. There are actually 12 very short questions. There are 2 basic questions, and then each one asks 6 different things. One is focused on AC power, and the other is focused on three-phase, a simple three-phase problem with 6 parts each, and each part will be equally weighted. So they're numbered 1 through 12. So 1 through 6 are associated with the power question, and 7 through 12 are associated with the three-phase question. What you're going to do on question 1 on Blackboard, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you open the exam, is in the essay space, you're going to put the number 1 and the answer to question 1, and then on the next line, number 2 and the answer to question 2, and then on the next line, number 3 and the answer to question 3. Okay, you're not going to use any kind of, you're not going to write any explanations or anything like that. So all you're really doing in question 1 is you're entering an answer sheet for your test. So you'll have 1 through 12, you'll have the answer for each one. So after you complete that, what question 2 is what Blackboard calls a file response, where you basically upload a file. So what you're going to do on question 2 is you're going to take your work. So some of these are fairly easy, and they're like one-line calculations. You must show work, and it must include a formula. So in other words, even if it's something like power is equal to V times I, you need to show that that's the formula that you used, and you need to write the unknown, the quantities that you entered into the formula, and show an answer. So you can certainly use a calculator, but I cannot give you credit for strictly entering an answer sheet. You'll need to actually show that you did the work and that you actually have answers. And that you've got the answers. And the answers on your work must be the same as the answers that you entered on your answer sheet, or you won't get credit. So in other words, you can't do a bunch of work and then put a bunch of answers completely unrelated to your work and expect to get credit for that. Now, the way Blackboard is going to show the grade is they're going to show questions 1 and 2 having a weighting of 10 points each for a total weight of 20 points of the test. That is not the way the grade will be calculated. It's just the way Blackboard sets it up. Each question will be worth 8 1/4 points, so for a total of 100 points. And that's the way the grade will be entered when I enter grades on Blackboard. And I have to override the Blackboard system. So you'll be able to see your grade on Blackboard, but you need to understand that that's not how I actually calculate the grades end of semester. I use an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, I have set the exam where you can begin as early as 9:30 on Wednesday. So I've set it where you can begin 30 minutes early if you want to. That is to prevent any bandwidth issues with everybody trying to sign on to Proctorio at one time. I don't believe in this particular exam, since I have set to record and since I have photos of all of you through GraderLink, I don't believe I'm requiring a student ID, but just in case, please have a student ID with you in case it asks you to share that, or a driver's license or any form of photo ID, because I very well may require that in the future. So what Proctorio is going to do is it's going to monitor for the presence of other people in the room and multiple faces on the screen. It's also going to now what it is it's set to monitor what they call lenient or low level, meaning if you're in a room and your dog walks by or your little brother walks by and is in the background, that is probably not going to trigger an alert. If you're huddled over a desk with another person and there's significant multiple faces, or you're gazing at another individual for a significant amount of time, or there is a lot of conversation going on, that will trigger a flag and it will record it so that I can view it. So that's the way I have Proctoria set up to work. It does not kick anybody out of the system. It does not shut down the exam. None of that's going to happen, but you will be recorded, both audio and video. So you will have to have a computer where you can enable both the audio, your microphone, and the video. Do not have other people in the room collaborating with you, and if there is a bunch of shuffling of notes or textbook pages, or if you access other websites, or if you've got an open book on the desk in front of you, then I will be able to detect that. The system will detect it. The test is closed book because this is an incredibly easy exam. I will not provide any formulas for the exam, so what you need to know is the following. So as far as exam review, let me see if I can pull up a blank screen, and we'll write what I think you need to know. So let's go to this. So based on the exam that I made out, you need to know, given the AC current and voltage for a specific load, simple things like how to do phasor expressions, determine the load, and determine power. And if you recall, there's average, reactive, complex, parent. There's power factor, power factor angle, and then also be able to tell from the given AC current and voltage, what's the phase, what's the amplitude, what's the period, what's the frequency in both hertz and radians per second. So all these things that you should know already from step one. But if you need to review any of that, any of those definitions, any of those formulas, now's the time. Also remember that for average, reactive, complex power, there's a phasor form, and there is a instantaneous. So, and I should add instantaneous power here too. Also remember that unless otherwise specified, voltages are not RMS. If it's RMS, then I specifically state in the problem it's RMS. And for a three-phase, I think we've talked about this before, and I've given a summary before, but basically the difference between Y and delta, the relevant differences in phase and phase sequence, line versus phase, voltage, and current. And I don't know, there is a simple formula for total power, and I don't remember if you need that or not. Okay, so let me pull up the three phase and go back to the very beginning. There's not a great, well, look at this one. This is a Y to Y configuration. This is kind of the very beginning. And so with this in mind, with this in front of us, I want to talk a little bit about um, the difference between line and phase and the different voltages that might be asked for. So um, remember the phase voltages so whether or not it's a line or a phase current or voltage depends on the connection. So the relationship between line voltage and phase voltage and line current and phase current is strictly a function of whether you have a delta or a Y configuration, independent of whether that's at the load end or at the source end, the generator end. So in this configuration, we have phase voltages at the load end. That would be V big A little n. And we have line voltages at the load end. That's V big A big B. But we also have phase voltages at the source end. So that would be little a little n. And line voltages would be little a little b. Okay. So as far as phase voltages and line voltages, they can occur at either the source end or the load end. And whether or not they're the same or different depends on whether you have a Y or a delta configuration. So in this case, we have a Y to Y configuration. So if you recall, my suggestion to you in an earlier video is whatever it is you have, use your delta to Y impedance transformation to convert from a delta to a Y. Solve the problem for the Y to Y connection and then convert back to get any requested currents or voltages. So in the Y configuration, the line current and the phase current is the same because it's current I little a big A is both the current in the line coming into the load as well as the current through the load. And the same is at the source end. It's the current coming out of the source as well as the current coming into the line. So in a Y configuration, phase current and line current is the same. Phase voltage and line voltage are different. That flips in the Y to delta. And I don't think I have a super great figure of that. I can show this one and I can temporarily erase my marks. So where is my eraser? Well, that's weird. Okay, well, I'll just use the figure with the marks and just bear with me there. I think I can, let me exit screen show. I think I can move this out of the way. Okay, so let's just look at this guy, blow him up, and we'll just look at this guy. Okay, this is the delta configuration. And in the delta configuration, there is no neutral line. So there is no such thing as VAN because there is no N in a delta configuration. So your voltages are strictly between VAB, VAC, and VBC, or VCA. So VAB, VBC, VCA. Those are both the line voltages because they're the voltages between the A line and the B line. They're also the phase voltages because, for example, VAB corresponds to the voltage across the A phase of the delta load. So in a delta configuration, the voltage, line voltage and phase voltage are the same, but the current is different because you can see here comes the current down the line. It's going to split. Some of it's going to go through the A to B load, some of it's going to go through the C to A load. And that happens with every line. So the currents are not equal. So in a delta configuration, now it is possible to have a delta at the source and a delta at the load. But the relationship between line current and phase current is the same, independent of whether it's at the source end or at the load end. Now, somebody did ask me a question: what is the difference between, what is the relationship between the phase at the source end and the phase at the load end? The answer to that question is that if you're talking about a particular variable, so for example, this would be a single phase equivalent circuit for the A phase. So if we are looking at the voltage at the generator, so this V A prime N, and we're comparing that to the voltage at the load, V uppercase AN, then in that particular case, the relationship between the phase of the source, the generator voltage, and the phase of the load voltage depends on what the impedances are. So it's not dependent. Once you have it converted to your Y to Y form, then the relationship between the voltages across any of these elements. So there is another variable that can be asked about that I think is demonstrated in the other videos, and that is we talk about the voltage drop across the line impedance. So in that case, that is not the same thing as a line voltage. That would be the voltage from point little a to point big A. Okay, so I realize that the terminology gets confusing, even though this is a closed book case, closed book test. I really recommend that you make yourself a list of formulas. Usually in three-phase, the voltage given is RMS, and I'm pretty sure the three-phase problem, the voltage is stated as RMS, and you are told that it is RMS. The only implication that that has on your answers is the power formulas in your book make an assumption of RMS, current and voltage. So we're following the assumption that the book chapter already makes. Okay, I think that that is all that I want to go over. Once again, just really recommending that you be sure your webcam works. Oh, one other thing. So on the second question, you will be required to, let me go back to that where I was reviewing for the exam. So I guess the other formula you need to know is the delta to Y impedance transformation. And it is either a multiplication or a division by 3, depending on which direction you're going, whether you're going from delta to Y or Y to delta. So I think, okay, so the other thing that I want to talk about is on the second question. You're asked to upload a file, and what I want there is I want a single PDF file. Do not upload an image file. So you're going to need to practice between now and Wednesday, if you've never done this before, using some kind of app with the camera on your phone. Now this is going to trigger Proctorio. It's going to think it's suspicious activity. That's okay, because I'll check it and I'll see what you're doing. Basically, you're going to take your cell phone and you're going to take a photograph of your work, and you need to do it within an app that will create a single file. The one that I use is I use CamScan. I've had a number of students say that they used other ones and they thought they worked great. CamScan puts a little watermark if you don't pay for the premium edition, but that's okay. So CamScan is a good one. There are some others. These allow you to take screenshots of your work. Please use good lighting and use a good quality writing instrument. So very faint pencil is really hard to read on the CamScan PDFs. Pen is better. If you make an error, you can mark through and redo whatever you want to do. You're going to take screenshots. It does need to be neat enough for me to read. You need to realize this is an exam. The the pages and the questions need to be in order and they need to be numbered. So on your handwork, you need to put number 1 in the work for number 1, number 2, the work for number 2. Put a box around the answer, just like you were doing an exam in class, and make it easy to read. Take the CamScan file, create a single PDF, and upload it where Blackboard asks for a file upload so that I can cross-check. And this is for your benefit more than mine, so that if you do make some kind of stupid error, I can give you partial credit by looking at your work. Okay, I think that's all I had to say, and please prepare in advance because there is no tolerance for not being ready to take the exam because you didn't properly prepare using the time that we have between now and then. So get all this stuff ready. I absolutely will not delay the exam because you're not ready to run a webcam. So fair warning to everybody, get all this ready. This video, I'm sending out an email to say it is required watching so that everybody understands and is on the same page and nobody has any surprises. And I will, as I said, I will open the exam as early as 9:30. If you don't have a class before this, you can certainly take the exam. It is a 50-minute exam. So if you start at 9:30, your exam is going to be due at, what's 50 minutes, 10:20. You can turn it in as late as 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, the exam shuts down. Because we're doing Proctorio, I cannot do auto submit. So if you don't save and submit your exam, then it won't record. Do not submit early if you're not ready. Make absolutely 100% sure that you are ready. Make sure you have your answer sheet, your answers typed in on question 1 in the essay part, and work uploaded on question 2, and double check that it is all there before you click submit, because I will not restart the exam if you click submit and you forgot something. So it's on you to be sure you're submitting a complete exam. That is not difficult. So don't make that mistake because honestly it will be a 0. All right, so I will have this all ready for you on Wednesday, and if you have any other questions, please send them by email. Thank you.